The Cambridge Dictionary has gone woke and now provides a new definition of woman. A California college is implementing a high-tech version of segregated safe spaces. Plus, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis launches an investigation into COVID vaccines. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
Okay, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday. Hope you're having a great week. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with the woke radical left and the definition of a woman. Seems easy enough, right? A woman is an adult female human being. Boom. See how easy that was? You want to go a little further? The female has 2 X chromosomes, is capable of bearing children, has female sex organs. It's really not that hard. But in today's society, in which the media, education, entertainment, medicine, big tech are all dominated by the left, science and common sense are thrown out the window in favor of fantasy and pretend. Recall how those on the left are replacing mothers with birthing people because, according to these radicals, men can give birth too. And how about when leftist Ketanji Brown Jackson, who now sits on the Supreme Court, was asked to define a woman?
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a
the
biologist.
meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
She can't do it because she's not a biologist. Well, I'm not a biologist either, and it wasn't too hard. But just so you know, this push by the left to completely dismantle and restructure society is not limited to America. Courtesy of Sky News in Australia, here's a senator trying to get government officials to provide a simple explanation, a simple definition of what a woman is.
Given the amount of gender-based programs there are, I would like to know whether or not the department can and does have a definition for a woman.
Do we have a definition of woman? In relation to, no, I don't think we do.
It's just ridiculous. And now, the esteemed Cambridge Dictionary has joined in the woke, ignore the science and reality paradigm of the left by updating its definition of a woman. If you type in woman at the Cambridge Dictionary website, the first definition returned is the standard one, an adult female human being. Easy enough, except as we've seen if you're a leftist government official. But now, Cambridge has added this, an adult who lives and identifies as female, though they may have been said to have a different sex at birth. Oh my gosh, here we go. There's so much wrong with this, so let's just start with the fact that the definition uses the word they in it. What is all that about? This isn't the definition of women, this is the definition of woman, singular. So the definition for woman uses the word female, but can't use the word she? Using they makes no sense, and this is the dictionary. Second, the definition, of course, has no basis in fact. An adult male can live his life as a woman if he wants to, but he's still a man. Fortunately, the definition is receiving scores of negative reaction, but the left is going to keep pushing and changing what it means to live in a normal society. All right, next let's talk about the modern day segregation that's going on college campuses. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. Next, let's talk about another disturbing trend at colleges and universities, and that is the implementation of segregation. That's right. What people fought for in the 1960s, integration instead of segregation, is now being turned on its head in modern America. We have segregated graduations. We have college events where whites are excluded simply because of race, or other events where certain racial groups are given preference over others. And then we have so-called safe spaces where white people aren't allowed or straight people aren't allowed. Now a college in California is implementing a high-tech version of safe spaces in which a college-approved process will bar white males from certain safe spaces. Here's the story. A Students of Color Alliance lounge that requires students fill out a form listing what identity-based group they belong to before being granted electronic ID card swipe access to the venue has been established at an elite private college in Southern California. Pomona College administrators approved the swipe access decision in November to address student protests after easy access to the lounge had been somewhat restricted for a few years due to COVID-related occupancy rules, the Student Life reported. According to the Students of Color Alliance, there was no standardized process for granting swipe access to the lounge, which limited the use of the space as it was intended. The student group added there will be a Google form that students of color can fill out to request swipe access to the space. So, in order to get in, you have to fill out a Google form and indicate your name, email, student ID, and your Color Alliance group. Now, those groups include the Latin X Alliance, Caballeros and Senoritas Student Alliance, Ethiopian Student Association, African Student Association, Women of Pre-Health, and Asian American Resource Center. If you don't fit into one of those groups, it looks like you're out of luck. Patricia Vest, Pomona's Senior Director of Communications, told the College Fix, per our policy, student spaces at Pomona College are open to all students. She did not respond to a follow-up question asking whether white males would feel welcome in the lounge and who approves the swipe card access requests. So, the space is supposedly open to all, and yet it is restricted via keycard access. And it didn't look like they had white dudes as one of the groups. Is it any wonder why there is division in America? The last thing the left wants is for people to live together in harmony, one big melting pot. Divide people by race and label groups as oppressors or the oppressed, and you destroy what it means to be an American. All right, next let's talk about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and his efforts to hold people accountable for the COVID fiasco that we've witnessed over the last 2 years. Masks were mandated and the science didn't support it. Lockdowns were put in place and the science didn't support it. And the big one, vaccines were introduced and vaccine mandates were put in place and the science didn't support it. Recall Biden officials said you wouldn't get COVID if you take the vaccine. Wrong. Biden and other officials said you won't spread COVID if you take the vaccine. Wrong. Yet those statements were used to shame and shun and fire people. We know the vaccine doesn't keep you from getting COVID or spreading COVID. And now we are learning of adverse health conditions resulting from mRNA vaccines. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis wants an investigation.
Throughout our country, you still have hundreds of universities in other states that are still mandating these boosters on these college kids, when any type of cost-benefit analysis would say the benefit from them taking the shot, as you alluded to, it doesn't prevent them from getting infected or spreading it anyways. The benefit is minuscule, but as Joe Latipo and other studies have shown, there is a risk for doing it. So why can't our medical establishment acknowledge that? Why the deception? Why have they continued to do this for 2 years?
Laura Ingraham showed some recent headlines from left-wing news sites that are freaking out because DeSantis dares to fight back against the narrative. One headline credited DeSantis with authoritarian ambitions as he seeks to demonize public health safety measures to score political points. Here's DeSantis.
Well, let me tell you this, Laura. The authoritarians were the ones that wanted to mandate the vax on people. I protected people from having that happen and made sure Floridians could make their own choice. Laura, Denmark does not allow people under 50, unless they have pre-existing conditions, to get the mRNA shots because they've analyzed it and said that the drawbacks outweigh the benefits. But they've also looked at all-cause mortality, and the researcher found that, yes, in some age groups there was a decline in COVID mortality after taking these, but there was then an increase in other types of mortality. So why have we not seen big declines in excess mortality since these things have been introduced?
It's because of questions like that DeSantis is forming a panel to actually look at evidence-based medicine and all the studies to see if there is wrongdoing in the way the vaccines work and were marketed, and who needs to be held accountable. Good for DeSantis, and shame on the medical community for promoting a narrative that was clearly and obviously false. Next, let's talk about the ongoing crisis at America's southern border. Friends, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and neither Joe Biden nor DHS Secretary Mayorkas is doing anything about it. We have an open border in which drugs, gangs, and human trafficking are flowing in. Here's an update. Some 500 migrants were released into the streets of El Paso, Texas, to fend for themselves as the border city grappled with an overwhelming influx of asylum seekers who have besieged the city and overwhelmed its shelters and border detention facilities. The situation, which a local congressman dubbed a crisis on steroids, came as some 5,628 asylum seekers were held in temporary U.S. Customs and Border Protection custody in a facility designed for 3,500 after Mexican authorities escorted busloads of people fleeing failing governments in Nicaragua, Peru, and Ecuador to the U.S. border this weekend. The New York Post story goes on to say the El Paso officials have been warned to expect even more, including a 40% surge once Title 42 expires on December 21st. Remember early in the Biden administration when officials were saying, oh, this is just a seasonal surge. We knew back then what Biden's plans were, and we are seeing it play out right now with disastrous effect. The country is being overrun from an open southern border, and we must stop it now. Okay, next we have a story on college algebra and the fact that for some reason it's all of a sudden just too hard to do. Maybe it's the fact that education has been taken over by the left. Maybe it's because the left wants to indoctrinate rather than educate. I mean, as far as I know, algebra is algebra. It hasn't suddenly changed, right? Well, one university system thinks it has and is looking at getting rid of some math standards because too many freshmen are failing. Here's the story. The Kansas Board of Regents is considering stripping specific university math requirements after it was found that a significant percentage of college freshmen fail algebra, NPR affiliate KCUR reported. The Regents, who oversee the system's 6 public universities, are considering implementing the Math Pathways approach, which matches students to a math course based on their major instead of mandating algebra for all incoming students. While many universities require that all freshmen pass algebra as a prerequisite for graduation, 1 in 3 Kansas students reportedly fail the course, which could delay a student's graduation. Wow. 1 in 3 Kansas students fail algebra, which is supposed to be taught in high school. So, rather than adhere to some basic requirements for a college degree, the plan is to make it easier on students depending on their major. Now, I understand that some folks will say, hey, I don't need algebra, and I said the same thing about some of my core classes as well. But the point is that we are seeing a disturbing trend across the country in which requirements are being dumbed down or completely eliminated. Universities are happy to take your money, but we are not getting educated students in return. We're getting woke political activists instead. Friends, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our next show will be Friday evening at the usual time. Until then, I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button above. Once you do, tell your friends, share it, spread the word about the 13-minute news hour so we can keep growing. And for more great content, check out these videos right here, and I'll see you next time.